Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Furiosa, number 2 would be the Garfield movie, number 3 would be If, number 4 would be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and number 5 would be The Fall Guy. And man, oh man, I did get 2 out of 5 of my predictions right. I was not expecting which two. Nobody else got their predictions right either, unfortunately. A lot of people got pretty close, but then one specific hold got us all in the end. So let's just dive right on into what happened this weekend. Number 1 was actually the Garfield movie. Now, not that that's the shocking one, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of looking like potentially, there could be an argument that Garfield holds over and beats Furiosa, and that's what happened this weekend. We'll talk about the biggest surprise at our number 2. The Garfield movie, it's a family film, and I think family films will tend to hold over better despite any kind of reception. It would have to be like the worst kind of critical reception you've ever seen, or it would have to be a movie that barely anyone has marketed, nobody's heard of it for it to kind of drop off. So the Garfield movie holding over and getting to number 1 is not too surprising. It did make $14 million this weekend, which is not too far off from its like 20-ish million debut last weekend. So a low debut leads to a low kind of percentage drop off. That adds to a domestic total of $51 million. It needs $24 million until it outgrosses the original film. Worldwide, it is sitting at $152 million. So not only did it just double its $60 million initial production budget, and it's on its way to triple it once it gets to 180. But also for the other 2 Garfield films, it has outgrossed A Tale of Two Kitties by $5 million. It now needs $56 million until it outgrosses the original. So there you go. This one really jumped up from last weekend, which obviously good on it, It's not my favorite movie in the world, but hey, whatever keeps theaters open, whatever is going to keep this industry going, even if it is for like an IP film. Number 2, however, you might be thinking, oh, it's Furiosa, right? Because that was 1 and 2 last weekend. Wrong. It was actually If. Now, this and Furiosa are pretty close, so when more official numbers come out, Furiosa could potentially take it, but I don't know. I think the same thing with what I was saying about Garfield. Family films tend to hold over a little better, you know what I mean? And, this is a very dry weekend, every new release either barely got into the, bottom 5 of the top 10 or isn't here at all. So this is kind of the perfect time for like a family movie hold to kind of surpass some other ones. I think I was just kind of shocked though that it somehow managed to do this. It's kind of crazy how Furiosa, the actual critical acclaim darling in the top 3 at least, did not hold over well compared to these other 2. But then again, Furiosa is not a family film. If and Garfield are. And at least If is an original film, even if it is still yet to double its $110 million budget. It made $10.8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $80 million. So for John Krasinski, that places it $80 million behind A Quiet Place Part 2. Worldwide, it is sitting at $138 million, which places it $158 million away from A Quiet Place Part 2. A lot of people have been pointing out like, hey, these movies are holding over well, and they're not really dropping off that much. And it's like, trying to keep the optimism alive for like, movies aren't dying, audiences aren't going anywhere. They're just, it all just depends, all these other factors. And if you keep a movie in theaters long enough, people will eventually, get the word out there, start going. If you, don't condition people to just wait, all the factors that we always talk about. It's not just one thing, it's multiple, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to keep it a little more optimistic because last weekend it was a very depressing episode, and I'm sorry about that. Not that my mood is going to get any better when we move on to number 3 right now, which is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, now sitting at $10.7 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $49 million. So for the Mad Max filmography, it is $13 million over Beyond Thunderdome. It now needs $104 million until it outgrosses Fury Road. Worldwide, it is sitting at $114 million, so a little bit of a jump up. It outgrossed the original film by $15 million. It now needs $255 million until it outgrosses Fury Road. So it's outgrossed the other Mad Max films. It just now needs to outgross Fury Road. That's the big hurdle, and I don't think that's gonna happen. But it crossed over 100 million worldwide, so that's good. The budget is of course 168 million, so they're still nowhere close to doubling that. I hope that this has a long enough run in the theaters where people will keep going. But then again, next weekend we got a big action movie, we got a horror film. The weekend after that, it's Inside Out 2. We're about to enter like an onslaught of summer, So I in a perfect world, this movie would hold over well, and it would be like similar to how Fury Road went. It would be like this kind of surprise hit where it's like, it doesn't really look like it, but it actually did pretty okay. I don't know if that's going to happen necessarily. So it's still a bummer, but, there's other reasons to keep optimistic about the theatrical experience. There just might need to be some course correcting here and there. Whatever, it's just all a big hodgepodge of stuff. Anyways, let's move on to number 4, which is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, making $8 million, adding to a domestic total of $139 million. It is $7 million away from outgrossing War for the Planet of the Apes. Worldwide, it is sitting at $337 million, so it is still behind the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, this time by $25 million, but in some good news, it has officially doubled its $160 million initial production budget, so it's made $17 million over that doubling point. It will now need to get to $480 million to triple it. I'm hoping that it has enough momentum to keep it going. I checked the IMDb, release date section, and it looks like it's released everywhere worldwide already. So it's not like we're not going to be expecting any other big crazy booms to come out of this, I think. But it would be great if this had enough momentum and enough positive word of mouth to keep going. If we can get just a little bit close to tripling this, initial production budget, that would be really great. I think they're already in a good spot where, yeah, we will be getting the next film in their planned new trilogy here. I really want to see it because I really love this movie, and I think audiences, despite some people really being shocked by the B cinema score this got, I think word of mouth has spread by the fans of the franchise, by the fans of the other films, like the more recent films. I mean, just people who want to see a good movie. They want something a little different as far as like the technical craft in their blockbusters these days, and this is something that's pretty close to what they want. I think word of mouth has spread, and the fact that it's doing so well right now and it's held over pretty well in the coming weeks, I think this will bode well for the next film and probably make even more than that. I don't want to, I don't want to predict that so early on, and then when it comes out, it's like, oh, actually, it got the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 treatment. But still, I think we're in a pretty good place with this Apes franchise. Good on ya. Number 5 is The Fall Guy, making $4 million, adding to a domestic total of $80 million. It is $23 million away from outgrossing David Leitch's Bullet Train. Worldwide, it is sitting on $157 million. And then worldwide, it needs $81 million until it outgrosses Bullet Train. So, and this is another one similar to If, where people are like, see, it's having a pretty solid hold, and it's not immediately dipping out of here. And it's like, that is great, you're right, but going back to what I said about If, it is still very much so far away from doubling its initial production budget, ranging from either $125 million or $150 million. If you want to go best case scenario that it's as low as possible, they still need about $93 million more to actually double that, you know what I mean, as far as like their entire worldwide total. So yeah, it's still adding up, and yes, it does go to the argument of, if you didn't condition people to wait because it's literally available to, rent on VOD right now, maybe we could have had an even longer kind of hit with this. But, it's still playing in theaters and people are still going out to see. I guess that is a positive, too, is that even though it is on, video on demand right now, you can still go to the theater and people are still going at the very least. So once again, just course correction. The audiences aren't completely gone, just we need to course correct in some areas. Not necessarily the audience behaviors and everything, or even like, management at these theaters, cleanliness, blah, 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 but also the distributors and, the people who release these movies, actually. Number 6 is The Strangers Chapter 1, making $3.6 million, adding to a domestic total of $28 million. That is $4 million over Prey at Night, and now needs $24 million until it outgrosses the original. So there you go, Chapter 1. You may be fucking terrible, but you outgross Prey at Night. Good job. Worldwide, it is sitting at $30 million. So not much of a bump up, but it needs $2 million until it outgrosses Prey at Night, which it probably will do. Obviously, because the budget was super low at $8.5 million, they have already doubled, tripled this budget on their way to quadruple it. Good on ya. It's no tarot, but good on ya. Number 7 is Haikyuu, The Dumpster Battle, a new anime film that I completely, missed as far as like looking what was coming out, but it didn't get into the top 5, so I am good with my predictions. Well, I mean, I still got some of them wrong, but I was not, the movies were right. I think. Am I right? Yeah, the movies were right, just in the wrong order. This movie made $3.5 million this weekend, adding to a worldwide total of $11.8 million. Not sure what the budget of this thing is, but, these things have their audience, and it usually goes well. I have nothing more to add, so let's move on to number 8, which is In a Violent Nature. This is one where I don't have the budget readily available to me right now. I'm going to assume it's pretty low budget because it is an IFC film. It's not, it mostly just shoot in the forest. There's like one interior location in like this, well, two-ish, So I'm assuming they, didn't have to spend too much money on this. Either way, it did make $2 million this weekend. So I don't have a budget. I don't have a worldwide total. I can only hope that this $2 million is enough for IFC. And Shudder, I guess. Anyways, let's move on to number 9, which is Ezra, making 1.1 million. Not sure what the budget of this one is either. There's no other totals for it to add to, so it's just sitting here at 1.1 million. Now, I thought this was a Tony Goldwyn directorial debut. It's not. He's directed some other films before. As far as the opening weekends, you know, it is 9 million below Someone Like You and 3 million below The Last Kiss, but it is 1 million above Conviction and A Walk on the Moon. It does need 3 million until it outgrosses A Walk on the Moon, so yeah, not a great big splash. This isn't like a big crowd play. I mean, it's designed to kind of be like a crowd pleaser, but it doesn't have the marketing push to really get there. So, and I don't think the movie itself is like people are going to really talk about that one. It's just kind of like, oh, I saw it, it was nice. I think will be the strongest praise it gets, potentially. And finally, closing out the video, number 10, Sight, making 1.08 million, adding to a domestic total of 5.8 million. It is still way behind The Blind and Paul Apostle of Christ by 12 million, the director's previous films. I don't have anything else to add. Was this more upbeat than last weekend? I hope I did you guys right. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I think, will be Bad Boys Ride or Die. Despite all the doom and gloom of like box office forecasting and all this shit, I think just based off of what happened with For Life 4 years ago before shit hit the fan with COVID-19, I think Bad Boys Ride or Die is going to do really well. I think there's already an established fan base, and I think people are, you know, craving a big action movie, you know what I mean? I know we just got Furiosa. But maybe something that's a bit more not post-apocalyptic, bit more comedic, you know? Maybe this will be the one that wins you. You know, you're covering a couple different demographics with the Bad Boys franchise. And I guess it helps that as far as like American audiences, this one has kind of been more... The Bad Boys films have kind of been more ingrained in American culture as opposed to Mad Max's birth from Australia, and a lot of film fans love it. And Fury Road did do really well here domestically, but a lot of the other Mad Max films, you know, you kind of catch on to it. It wasn't a big hit, you know what I mean? So I think this one will do well. Number 2, I think, will be The Watchers. Number 3, the Garfield movie. Number 4, If. And number 5, Furiosa. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.